What's happening, everybody? Be right with you. Let me just get this worked out here. We are, looks like we're being blocked from sharing on Soulogy. Let's see here. Hey, Paul, what's up, Gaia man? I'm doing well. If these shows resonate with you, please share so we can stay above these algorithms. We are working on the Soulogy network, Soulogy.TV. Our brother Aaron Pearson is working on the back end of it. He's building the site, everything from scratch, and a lot of work's been put into it. So we're getting closer. But in the meantime, if you guys would help us by sharing out, especially now because we're blocked, we would appreciate it. Share to your page or to one group. And thank you for the continued love and support and contributions that keep us going. So we're going to keep moving with this thing and keep scheduling more shows when we land in a place that we can do it, which is until Saturday. So expect some shows to be coming out. I'm going to bring up Franco DiNicola, who's been doing this for a long, long time. If you haven't caught some of the shows, you can go to YouTube. It's probably the easiest way. You just go to SoulogyOneStudios channel and pull up Franco, and there's probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 shows on there. They're all very, very good. And I got to, this is the year that we expand our throat chakra and speak our truth. Franco is my most favorite guest or collaborator to have on this show, so it's always an honor. Let's get him up here. Let's see, Franco. Start video. Unmute. What's going on, Franco?
Good. Hang on a sec here. I'm just trying to get audio working here.
Yeah, no problem. And we were looking on the last show. People were having problems hearing me, so I took off the earpieces. But let me know in the crowd there if there's any problem hearing me. I'll remove these. Yeah. So, and let me just. I know I'm a day late. And I always do things not always on time, but they were not linear. So I just want to take a moment here. If everybody would just bear with me as I sing happy birthday to Kimberly Ross.
Happy birthday. Yes, she's on the call.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kimberly, and for keeping Franco in check all the time. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Kimberly. All right.
Yeah, you just just put a smile on her face.
Well, we got 62 people in the house, 16 in the Zoom room, and more are coming. See everybody. Excited to be talking to Franco, my brother. Excited to be collaborating with him again because, God, so much has happened. The last time we talked was probably less than a month ago. And yeah, everything is just moving and grooving. Moving very rapidly. Morgan and I were talking about how fast everything is moving. clearing and elevations, and I don't know. We were just having a conversation right now. We had I think it was 3 nights ago. We had a huge elevation, and then last night we sat down, we lay down, and immediately it came in like just whoosh. But it was her description of it. We were just talking about it. We really haven't talked about it. Was that it was like the memories were being erased of anything that was illusional. And I was telling her, because we only had about 5 minutes, we haven't had a chance. And I said, well, because we lay down and then we connected, and then I started snoring. I was in and out. And so I finally thought, well, I can't lay here and do this. So I went outside and did it my way. But one of the things I did was I visited all my family members on their Facebook pages, which I never do. And I'm thinking about it today. I thought I didn't know why I was doing it, but it was almost like I was just saying goodbye. Really.
Mm.
You know. Do you have any insight on this memory clearing? Does that make sense? Jive with you?
Yeah, actually, it's a good point to start off with at this start of things. Yeah, we're actually, as of the 16th of January, we are now full what can I call it? Full energetic imprint or full energetic streaming of the 2020 energies, because it was so different, and a lot of people weren't quite ready. It was done in stages, and so as of that, we're in that energy now. A lot of people talk about the fact of, timeline shifts, and, we're shifting timelines and so forth. All of that stuff has already been done quite a while ago. It's not really so much shifting of timelines, because we have multiple timelines. We have a timeline which the collective all shares and hook up to and connect. And then we have our personal timelines, and our personal timelines a lot of times merge depending on who we're connecting with. But within each of the timelines, we have spectrums of frequencies. So it's almost like different versions of yourself with also different versions of projections, what you see around you, right? And with that also connects with the different frequencies of the collective of either organic 3D or organic 5D playground platform, right? So what happens is, especially now that things are in our own personal lives are changing, because actually our personal lives are changing faster than the collective right now. Because the collective has its kind of a balance point because of where everybody's at. So it's going to take different, but each time it puts another channel within that timeline of the collective. So it's like your radio, and somebody's adding more channels to it. And it's not a matter of pushing a button. It's just, you're just tuning it. So as you're shifting within yourself, you're now going into that range. So what happens with that is that you go to that other version, another frequency, another vibrational aspect of yourself that carries certain spectrums of light. And then that aligns with the collective alignment with that and anybody else. So what you're doing is anything that is still of an older channel, older frequency and so forth is now being elevated, because you're choosing to elevate to the point where it starts to become out of, like you're adjusting the radio. So one channel is moving out and another one's starting to tune in. So that part of that channel starts to go. So you don't actually hear what's going on. But the amazing thing is a lot of the memories around how you knew this person and what they represented to you is shifting, so that in fact, you could start looking at some people and you don't even recognize, you kind of know who they are, but you don't recognize them in the same way as before, like you knew them, because you have a different view of it as they are wherever they're at. So the other thing is, it's also the purpose of this is to have us not to affixate to the attachments of what anyone represented and what role they've played in our lives before, so that you do not continue the old pattern. Mm-hmm. So it causes a bit of a disrupt. Now, there are also other people that are, having soul swapping going on right at the moment, where their souls are being upgraded to another soul coming in and so forth. And that taking place, every so often, people go through what you call not a purge so much, but a reset sort of thing. So it actually, what it does, because all the memories are stored in a subconscious mind, they're stored, in the human entity part, and also in the bodies and the mind itself, the overall consciousness. It causes a little bit of a reset. So what happens is you could be looking at someone that and they seem different to you in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes if you does a deep enough reset, it's going, who the hell are you?
Okay, this
Your
is
mind.
perfect. This is perfect. I received a message from a lady, and I think she also messaged you. I don't know how I even got to open it, but she asked about walk-ins. Now you're talking soul swaps, and let's go over this in a second. Let me just preface it now. So she was asking about what she was observing in her 18-year-old son and how he had, as she watched your description on one of the previous shows, she was saying, I think my son's just become a walk-in because he's like turned into this totally different thing. And I was like, I really don't know, without being there. I mean, how would I know? But the point is, she was observing somebody because most of the questions are obviously coming from people that are experiencing it themselves. Now, just as an example, because I know everybody's made up different, there is a lot of people that identify with the term walk-in. I'm
Mhm.
still not totally clear on it, so I'd love for you to just kind of cover that again. Secondly, is there a difference between soul swapping and walk-in? What is soul swapping? And then the last thing I'd say is, I personally have never really felt uh, like a walk-in, or that I've hit a period where I've always heard this same voice through my whole life. Now, Morgan's different. Morgan knows she was a walk-in when she came in, and she's had several walk-in experiences. And the last one I leave you to reflect on, we were in Northern California, and she told me after we left, she was acting, she was processing a lot of stuff, and I guess I was too while we were there. But she said one morning she walked in and looked at me and said, "Who in the f is this guy?" So it's a lot like what you're describing. And so, again, can you just kind of run through walk-in? Is it the same thing as soul swapping? What is soul swapping? And what are the characteristics of this so people might know what's
Okay.
happening to them?
Yeah, good question. Good question. In regards to, what a walk-in is there, if there's a soul that's completely done and the body's being abandoned, meaning I'm done with this, okay, I'm leaving, they can go through a death process or not. So if a soul says it's not going to serve to pull the physicality out of this realm of play here, it makes it available for another soul to step in. So that soul will leave permanently. Okay, so it says, I'm done. See you later. Okay, so it's gone. Then it opens it up, and the physicality is still functional. The human entity is still okay with all the whole thing, and everything is still intact. Then another soul can look and say, okay, I can take on that ride, and I'd like to take on that physicality. And that becomes a walk-in because they're basically not starting from scratch. They're coming in at a point where they take over from where they are now. It depends on the soul. It may turn around and say, okay, for the next little while, I'm just going to be the observer. I'm going to hold the energy and just observe so I get my grounding of how things are in this physicality. Okay, unless it's been monitoring it for a while, but regardless, it doesn't normally. So it watches it. And then it says, okay, there's too much stuff here that I don't need. So I'm not going to activate resets. Okay, what we call a reboot sort of thing. And it says, okay, we're going to purge all this sequence of memories, patterns, defaults of response, and so forth, and emotional imprints and all that stuff. We're going to purge that. And also memories of certain people that we have put as valuable in our gameplay. So I'm going to purge some of those so that I can give some room to kind of get myself in the navigator seat. I'm going to take the autopilot thing out for a minute because I want to get to the wheel sort of thing. So that's when you have that type of experience. So that's a walk-in. There's a soul swapping, which is another process. which involves where a soul says, I'd like to leave for a period of time to try out another physicality in a different area of the world or something of that nature, so that I can actually get a different experience, a different opportunity to play that is outside of what I've been playing up to this point in time. So that soul can leave, that one could swap in, or another one from another place can come in, and so forth. So that's that one. The other one is that a soul says, okay, I'm done. It's still considered a soul swap, or in this case, it's kind of a combination between two. The soul says, okay, I'm done all I want to do here. Okay. However, I have agreements with all these other souls, like could be family, could be friends, could be partners, and so forth. And I don't want to unplug and just let anything come in. I want to make an arrangement with a soul that can step in and kind of take over, but at the same time be different enough to be able to, represent as the difference and so forth. So then there's an arrangement, an agreement that's made by two souls. It says, okay, I'm leaving. You can step in. This is what you need to take on, and then you can adjust accordingly. So those are the three main ones that occur. That some people call it drop-ins and whatever else. The drop-in is like, okay, and a lot of times the reason they called it a drop-in is because the soul is gone for a little while. Could be hours, could be days, could be sometimes a little longer than that. And then until a soul actually takes command of the body or steps into the body, that's why it looks more that way, because they're out for a period of time. So there's a space in between. Now, what happens is people, this is what, there are people, like say Morgan, for example, not that I want to pull her into it, that have
Go ahead, pull her into it.
okay, that have made agreements at certain points in time to be very instrumental as a tool to carry a certain energy, to do something, and to create connections with people like yourself and others to play a very substantial role. So in that particular case, the soul that comes in will run with it to the max until it says, okay, I've exhausted what I can do with this. I'm now made enough preparation for another soul to come in. And that again is agreed upon, and the soul will come in, and that soul will run with it too and pick up the pieces where they are and go further. In this particular case with Morgan, a third one comes in later because it says, okay, now it's time. And that's fairly recent, and say, okay, well, now we will, take over. But I need to purge some of the old patterns of observation and reestablish. So it's not about forgetting, say, Todd. It's saying, Todd's cool. However, I want to build a new file of how Todd is today. I'm not too concerned about the past, right? So much, and whatever we've shared. So then that type of a reset. And you're not the only exclusive. I'm just saying a lot of people would have that, or other people would have it. I'm just explaining it so other people can understand it. Because like even the example you gave earlier. So anyways, to go back and say, okay, now I choose to reestablish the relationship, the connection, the whatever it is. We're not going to drop it, but we're just going to bring it to a different level, right? And then your soul says, okay, let's work together. Let's see how we can bring that back into alignment now. Where we could easily bring it to the next level now. And that's the whole thing. So the situation with that lady with her son, that, in that particular case, well, there are times that the son has such beautiful connection that another soul would be interested in it. And that soul says, I'm done with all I came here to do. So another soul will step in. Now, what happens, and I've seen this happen because, even with Kimberly, she's gone through, 4 exchanges. It does change the characteristics, even the way they communicate at times, how they see things. And I've actually seen people that have been, had ailments with one embodiment, and then with another soul stepping in, it says, oh, I'm going to flick the switch on that one. I don't need that. So we'll turn it off. And all of a sudden, they had diabetes. Now they don't, and all of a sudden it's like, what happened? Right. But at the same time, they're changing. So there's more of that as we go along. For the reason is there are a few billion souls that are ready to kind of take on physicalities. There are souls that are wrapping things up, and then there are souls that are extras that are not individualized soul embodied, that will come online at some point as long as they're no longer required to play a particular role. So there's going to be a lot what you can call drop-ins. See, in that case where you're talking about souls that have not had a personalized soul ever, or in some cases a long time, then that would be considered a drop-in because they're coming into the physicality. And really, there's never been a navigator, a personal navigator. It's been navigated by a collective souls, right? So nobody actually ever runs around with, not navigated. They are, but when you're an extra, they actually work with whoever they're aligned with. For example, if you had an extra in your life, and there's many of those around, but if they were in your life, they would more connect with your soul and kind of say, okay, how can I serve? How can I piggyback in a way where I can serve you and play the role? And they're usually in and out. They're not going to stick around for too long, unless sometimes we have a family connection of some sort. And then that kind of sticks around for a long time, but a longer time. Let's not say a long time. But a lot of this stuff is adjusting. I don't want to create confusion.
No.
But at the same time, it's for the listeners. At the same time, this is all very key and instrumental for where we're stepping into right now, and where we're moving, and where we're at right at the moment. So there's a lot of going on with that preparation. But I'll let you fire away any question you like, or
no, this is good.
Your
this
comments.
Is good. So we have well, I don't know what that was. I think we just had a walk-in. so
or drop by.
Yeah, this is interesting. Okay, so first of all, because I see what you're saying about the souls, and although everything's connected, there's an individuality to it, something, or it's a little complex, that part of it, because you talk about there's a collective in some cases, and somebody just asked the question, can there be more than one? And you've answered that before. But
one exchange, you mean?
One soul present within one body. Can there be more than one soul present?
Normally not, no.
Okay, normally not. Okay.
You could have a visitation type of thing if it's going to be a handoff, and then for a while might be two riders, one soul, and then the other one is just getting used to it before there's a switchover.
Yeah.
But normally, no.
Now, so where does the human aspect fall in? I asked you one time, is the human aspect like a soul? And you said almost, kind of, not fully. But as I'm, because of course I'm thinking about Morgan and what she's been talking about, and then thinking about my own, either I'm going through something seamless or that's more seamless, and because it sounds to me like when these things occur, these walk-ins or swaps, there is an elevation, there's a purpose, there's an expansion. The programs are deleted and enhancements are added. So what I'm saying is the human aspect seems to be aware, at least intuitively aware of what's going on, and understanding the changes, and is having to stay on point, I guess, stay on top of it, to remain balanced, or is it in less control, so to speak?
Okay, that's a good question, because the human entity, which is the human part, there's several parts to this. There's the human consciousness, or the human body, which has its own innate consciousness, and it has its own innate wisdom. Then there's the human entity. The human entity is a somewhat of a soul, but it is an earthbound type of soul, but it is not quite the soul like we see it, but it is a consciousness that stays intact, that is connected to the point where it actually maintains its awareness as a human. So basically, a human entity only incarnates in human bodies, okay, take on human bodies, and they carry the characteristics of the human experience and the playground. Now, the human entity is very instrumental when it comes to the navigation. For example, somebody has a drop-in soul, or what you can call in a new soul, a soul swap. A soul that's, and there's many of those around, where there's a lot of souls that have never been on planet Earth before, never embodied a human body, has no idea what a human body is like, except that it's been observing for a little while, but doesn't know really how to navigate it, has never had the human experience, so doesn't know how the playground is. Some have been here. I'm just giving you another example. Some have been here, but haven't been here for a long, long time. So they've lost the same connection they would have had because they may have incarnated 500 years ago, maybe 2,000 years ago, whatever, and never have been again. So the soul comes in because the soul has also the experience of having embodiments, or what we call incarnational, as lack of words here, just basically taking on physical form on different playgrounds, on different Earths, in somewhere else in the galaxy, and sometimes in a different universe. So it's not so adverse in taking on a human body. So it relies heavily on the soul coming in, heavily on the human entity. Says, okay, I know the ropes here. I've only incarnated here. I've got the navigational skills. So we're going to work together. So there is a communication ahead of time to say, okay, this is what I can offer. What can you offer? What are you bringing? See, the human entity likes a soul that is new, or a soul that is, because it brings a whole completely more expanded viewpoint of the experience, versus the human entity says, oh, I'm open for that, but I'm going to show you the ropes too, because we still have to play the human game. Okay, so we're going to show you that. The body has its own consciousness and says, okay, I will maintain the integrity of the functionality of the physicality and its connections that it has on the planet here. Okay, so we'll be the grounding. Okay, and I will be the vehicle. The human entity will be the navigator, and the soul's coming in with the next level of navigation. And then what we call the mind, or what we call the overall consciousness itself, is the part that actually kind of takes all this input and kind of streams back. Okay, this is what we're going to go do, but it's done very collaboratively.
Yeah.
The subconscious mind's a whole different story. The subconscious mind is another record that, sometimes people call it the Akashic, whatever it is, but it's kind of its own record of whatever it's experienced. So there's usually programs, stories, belief systems in there that can be brought up. Now, the other last equation is the what we call the ego, and then the ego will sometimes have the power to step in there and kind of create more excitement in there by confusing or whatever it wants to do. But the two, the human entity and the soul, the embodied, still have enough to say, we want to understand this, but we don't want you to drive. So we're going to let you play a little bit, but not too much. But at some point, we're going to turn you off. We want no part of this. Okay, so those are some of the things that are occurring in a sense. So all of it is working in alignment. So when we talk about self-alignment, we're looking at the body aligning with the human entity, aligning with the soul, aligning with the overall consciousness of the mind itself. Yeah. Okay, so they work.
Where does the higher self come in, or is the higher self a collective?
Well, there's two types. There's a higher self within the human entity, which is skilled in the human, because there's a collective soul, or a collective cluster of consciousness for the human entity part. Now, the other thing I want to mention about the human entity, it can bring in skills that have been kept from somebody else. For example, it embodied, say, Bach, or it embodied, Tesla. So it has a lot of skills when it embodies another physicality, it uses a lot of that right away, or chooses to activate at some point. It says all of a sudden they're so brilliant at the mind level because of the fact that they're contributing. So that's the first level of that. But when we're talking about the higher self, we usually talk about the first level of it is our soul. Okay, so our soul carries the full imprint of what it is to be source, the essence, the higher aspect of yourself. But we're also connected to the oversoul. Okay, the oversoul is made up of 24 souls. One of them yourself, your twin soul is the other, and then there's 22 other souls. But the oversoul has the consciousness and experience of all 24 that is accessible. It's like nice hard drive that you can use,
Mm.
but it's not only a hard drive, it actually carries energies and mannerisms of how to play the game of any form incarnation. But you have to understand, a lot of those souls may not be even have even been on the planet. Some
Yeah.
have not. Some might even be on the planet right now. But the rest of them, they can be from other. So when you're tapping into that higher self, you're now getting perspective of all those other experiences. You
Now,
from there you can
is
go
that
to.
would
Mhm.
that be what you call a monad? That 24?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
And so it sounds like it's all collaboration. It sounds like
Mhm.
collaborative energy. So some of these swaps, drop-ins, walk-ins, whatever, are these uh, close neighbors in the monadic sense aspects? Are these aspects of ourselves? Number one, and number two, it sounds like in general, this is beneficial. This is
Yes.
beneficial. This process, this that's happening, right?
Yes, absolutely. And you're correct. The first line of availability when it comes to a physicality, a lot of times it's the monad, or we can call our soulmates, not soulmates, soul family, which
Hmm.
is the monad, soul family, with the oversoul. The oversoul doesn't embody. The oversoul carries the whole consciousness of the whole thing. Now, eventually it merges, but that's a whole different process that happens way later. But in it's already happening, but not normally for embodiments on the planet. That's kind of very rare. But so we don't have to cover that too much detail. But yes, normally, other times a soul that you've had multiple lives with, like a soul mate,
Hmm.
okay, your friends you've created where you've shared other lives together, because we have your twin soul, your identical soul, you have soulmates, you have soul families, okay, and then of course we also have access to other monads that are not working with us directly, that you can still tap information. And then you have the final channel, which is basically source, but then the source has channel levels too. You have source. Okay, I'm going to throw it in there, but then you guys do whatever you want to do with it. So people say, well, I want to tap into source. Well, you're not going to tap into the ultimate source, because ultimate source doesn't have form, and the ultimate source doesn't support form, but holds the energy that form can exist in. But you're not going there, because the moment you go to that sourceness, you disappear. You basically become one. You're like source. Okay.
Yeah.
So the different levels. So you're going to tap into the source consciousness that is focused in, say, our quadrant of the galaxy, okay, which is made
Right.
up of all of that level of consciousness and creation of that. Or you can do the larger part and say the whole, what do you call it? Galactic source, because there's an over source. And then, or you can go to the universal source, which is again only for our universe, or the source,
Hmm.
the universe that we're playing in. So those are different levels of consciousness, and they envelope, or what you can call encompass, the full game that's being played at those levels. You
Yeah.
know, like all the incarnate. So we can tap into that. A lot of times you say, well, we want to open up our third eye so we can tap into all of this stuff, right? But you're only going to let through what is going to serve you, because look at it, every time we go through a process of accessing a little bit more higher consciousness, it causes quite a bit of confusion in our mind and disruption, because we've been playing at a certain level about that big, and then
Yeah.
you can't just throw the whole thing. You're
Yeah.
going to just bring it up that much, and already that shakes you up. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I gotta integrate, I gotta you know
Well, I noticed that now these last two or three expansions that we've shared together in our daily life, we haven't had this happen. But prior to that, we noticed that when we had a big shift, when we went and did our thing at night, over the next 2 or 3 days, it could get a little funky. I mean, it was, we might, project, have a quick projectional moment, or but it was, and then we said, you know what, this is happening. But now it doesn't seem to be happening. There's two things that come up though. because I'm just trying to understand some of the characteristics. How does that feel? But I do remember two things happening very recently, and one of them was that I I was like I felt like I was getting used to being a human. Like, in other words, I was driving the car and I was like, okay, I can do this, and then the second part of that, I noticed that my physicality has taken on, um, for lack of a better way to put it, more strength. It's There's something happening to it, like my tolerance is stronger. I don't know, it's got a physical aspect to it. And then the other thing that happened very recently, like in the last 2 3 days, I think I went for a walk and I heard the words uh, very clearly. You're now the formless in form.
Mm.
Now that felt very different than the voice that I've related to over the years. That felt kind of new. And so, as I'm talking to you, I'm starting to remember a couple of things. But now, so there is a little bit of a shakeup when these things happen. They are beneficial, from what you're saying. It seems to be multidimensionality and a wider awareness. I mean, the human is part of the multidimensionality, and
Mhm.
it sounds like from what you're saying, becoming more conscious of its other aspects as it lives the human existence.
Yes, yes, exactly. And what you just described there about the message you received there, in the sense of that voice of the formless uh, experiencing form, that's another level of consciousness saying, okay, it's that part of you that's saying, all right, we're now bringing more of the formless into the form. What that does, it opens up the patterns. It's like, it's almost like it opens up the boxes or the layers of it so that you could experience more. Because the more you bring the formless into the form, it expands the form, the way the form plays, the form sees, experiences, and so forth. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to have a soul swap or embodiment or walk in to create a shift within ourselves, because we already are activating more and more of that formless in form for many, many people. So it's going to feel different. You're going to experience things different. You're going to feel that your body is going through the changes, like you were saying. And another part is, when you're going through that, another aspect of you actually goes into the driver's seat. So here you are, you're driving your car, and it's like, okay, I'm letting go of that part of me that used to know how to drive the car one way, and now I'm now embodying this part that can drive the car differently. And you will see that as you're driving the car, the feel is different
Yeah.
of what you're seeing, the connection you have with it. And sometimes you will have, and it's up to you to allow it to come in. It's like you're going through, you're driving down the road, and the road starts to kind of shift, and it almost looks like you're going into a tunnel sort of thing.
Hmm.
And it's like, but energetically, you're looking at it like lights and so forth.
Hmm.
But it takes a whole different
Yeah.
view of it. And it may be just, a glimpse of it, but that's kind of indicating that you are now already going out of the limits that you had before, and you're opening yourself more of the formless energy, the formless codes and viewpoint is coming into that form. Because the thing is, we're all upgrading our experience in form. This is what the whole changeover that we're going through and have been going through for quite some time. And of course, now we're getting into a much more powerful way of doing it, and it's going to be more experiential. And it doesn't have to be painful. That's the beauty of it,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
painful.
Yeah. That's one thing I noticed too, and more is coming to me now as I'm reflecting on my individual journey, this relationship with Morgan, uh, the monadic aspect of that, as the collaborations are occurring. But this thing about, driving the car, now that you just went over that, what a physical metaphor because that's what it feels like. It feels like, and I was saying, I think my higher self has landed, but now as you explain this, I can see the layers of it, and it's like, okay, this is what it feels like. I can do this, or I remember this, or I can get used to this. But there's definitely a different feel to it. I guess that's what I'm saying. There's a
Yes.
different feel to driving the car. There's a different feel
Mhm.
to Todd. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And the car is just the one part. The other vehicle is your body, and that you're going to feel. It's going to feel different. Even the connections that you may have with the sentient beings around you, or what you
Hmm.
can call nature
Hmm.
and animals and so forth, are going to seem different. And even how they respond to you are going to seem different. And the whole thing about like the experience of fear, of fight and flight, and all of that actually becomes less accessible
Yeah.
because that part of it is fading away, because that was an implant anyway. It was a
Yeah.
plug-in. It wasn't really the
That's what I was going to
Mhm.
refer to as well, because there is when the expansion occurs, there is a little bit of lag there where there's an adjustment, and that seems to be getting easier. But one thing that's happening, and so it's like you're having a new type of relationship with yourself. You're having a new type of relationship with your partner. You're having a new type of experience, uh, and it's taking some adjustment. That's not a bad thing. You're right. It doesn't feel like there has to be pain and suffering. Some things don't seem to be available, like that fight or flight thing, and the essence of love keeps getting bigger. You know, regardless of how how off track, but not really off track, but how integrating and embodying can cause a little bit of disruption or whatever. But the love factor is huge, and it's changing rapidly. You know.
Yeah, I mean, the more you become that essence that you are, more love you become. Not that you become, you experience more love and you emanate more love. And the thing is, and then this is one of the things, with people saying, well, I'd need to love myself more, right? And if we actually stop judging ourselves and we allow ourselves to be without putting any expectations on ourselves,
Yeah.
you're going to feel more of that love, because it's just you. You are that love. You are that purest form of that essence, and there is no conditions and expectations when you access that part of it.
Hmm.
And you notice the more you access, the more there is to access, and you become more and more and more of it. In fact, that you become this kind of a beam of love wherever you're going, and people just around you start to transform just for the sake of feeling, what you're emanating, right?
Yeah, we've definitely seen some of that, and there's a little store up here, little grocery store, and I've been in there 3 times now. And I just went today to grab a couple of things. I took a walk up there, and two people like looked at me like like I was this big light. They just looked at me, and I was like, wow, But I caught it. The other thing that we were talking about last night, and I've been trying to verbalize over the last couple of weeks as we've been on our journey, and that is that we usually would like say have a meeting. We have meetings every day, but we would say, okay, where are we headed? What are we trying to create? What do we need to clear to create space for that? And we really haven't done that recently. And I was thinking, and I was saying to her, it's weird because it's like what you're saying. It's like if you can just, well, you just be. It's almost like not thinking. Like everything just comes to you. Like where are we going to go from here? We don't know. But if we can just stay in this space, it's just going to come to us. And it's weird because the human part or the old part of us, even though it's not as entrenched in it, still says, well, maybe we need to do something. The when I hear now, you need to do this or you have to do that, I run. I mean, I was telling her last night. I said those two words are like they're like a virus to me. I can't associate with that. I don't need to do anything. I don't
Mhm.
have to do anything because I'm already that, right?
Yeah, and then you have a preference if you want to participate in anything. But the moment you put in need or have to or anything of that nature, then yeah, it doesn't resonate because it's not something that you operate anymore. Because before, that was our navigation system. Oh, we got to do this. This is a must and whatever else, right? Um, but that's not the case any longer. As you go along now, the the interesting part is the communication between people change where there's we don't have to plan, we don't have to do all of that communication. It's almost like an understanding between the two people. We know what to do, we know what steps to take next, and it's
Yeah.
always next, because we don't say, okay, that's the final journey. No,
Right.
you can have an idea saying, oh, that's right now from this viewpoint, that's something we see as a potential outcome. So you can start aiming that direction, start walking towards that
Yeah.
direction, but you're open because amazing things plug in, because there's so much more cooperation, collaboration that comes
Yeah.
in that you don't even know that's there.
Yeah.
And it's now flooding in, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is shaping better than I could even have imagined at that
That's
time. At
that's
that
what.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's so strange is that, and I know we're using this as an example. I'm not trying to hog the, but if I look at the, because it's got to be happening. I mean, obviously it's happening. You're watching it happening, and you're narrating it and forecasting it. But if I look back, just even back to August when we came to the States, and we talked about this, how we made the decision, and then all of a sudden somebody said, you can stay here 3 days, you can stay here 3 weeks. And it was like, it was literally a path. And geographically, it was a path. And but the difference between August, September, October, November, and these were magical, more fluid, just like what you're describing, and what's happening now, it's like light years. It's literally, if snap to the moment and chill out. And you know, I think for me, some of the they're not big anymore challenges have been, why am I not doing the things that we normally do?
Mm.
Why are we not, that, but again, it's new relationship with yourself, new relationship with your partner, new relationship with life. And but that's momentary now. I'm not stuck on, you know old patterns or behaviors or habits or whatever the case is. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the old version of people saying, "Oh, you're like this or that," that fades away, and it's almost like you're meeting the same person new every time you see them,
Yes,
because
that's good
they're
description.
changing, you're changing. Because
Yes.
as you change, you're actually seeing another version of them, first of all. Second of all, they're changing, so they're already presenting a different version. And then there's a collaboration or connection of what the two versions are of that. And it's more difficult now to say, oh, I know who that person is,
Yeah.
because that person that you may remember is not that person anymore. A lot of things have changed since then, and you have changed enough to actually see in that your dial has already changed. You're now seeing that other version of them anyway. So you're always getting acquainted with anyone and everyone, including intimate partners,
Mhm.
because everything is shifting all the time.
That's actually very cool. I
Yeah.
like that. That's actually really cool.
See, now
Uh,
you don't have to swap partners because you get a
yeah,
new
right.
partner every moment.
That's
Sort
right.
of thing.
That's really true. Oh man, I just had something on the tip of my tongue too. Um, I can't remember now. I don't remember what you were talking about. With the people thing, right? Like with other people. I mean, so much of our journeys have been, coming to the realization of who and what makes me uncomfortable. As we learn to take the responsibility of our experience by working on ourselves. From a human standpoint. But we were just talking about this recently, where we were approached by someone who had kind of done some things, and we were clearly shown. We've been shown this, and it's not rocket science, that you pull these people up and you integrate, and you see them for what they really are, and so on. But moving forward, into these environments and into these interactions, we were just discussing the importance of leaving behind those beliefs. Like,
Mhm.
I know who that person is. You know, and afford them, really the same allowance that we would ask for ourselves, and that is, I am a new person today. I'm not who I was yesterday.
Yeah, and if you hold on, this is the interesting part. If you hold on to the idea that you know who they are and expect them a certain way, you're going to dial up that version of them to still play out until you finally let that go. Then the current version shows up
Yeah.
because the current version is there, but it says, you can't see me, you're seeing the old me,
That's
right?
what we said last night. We said if we go do this and we carry these thoughts forward, that's what we're going to see. But if
Yes.
we go through, if we walk that direction and we leave all that behind, then we're going to have, we're going to, expand on some of the experiences that we've had, interacting with people and situations and such.
Yeah,
Um,
and this let me just expand one thing there because this just leads into the next little piece
okay.
here I wanted to
Yeah.
mention. Is this relates to the world? Because a lot of people say, well, I'm not seeing much changing in the world, right? And the thing is, if we still strongly believe that the world is a certain way and that the world has to reflect something different
Yeah.
before we can allow ourselves to see something different, then all you're doing is the same thing what you're talking about. You're looking a reference point of the past
Yeah.
to look at the world. So you're looking through the same lens that has filters that projects the same. So you
Yeah.
need to look at the world always new, always open, always whatever. And then you could see more of the changes that are going on, but then also how you interact. I mean you, everybody, as we interact with the world, we're looking at it from a whole completely more expanded different viewpoint, so we're actually accentuating the changes on a collective scale.
Yeah.
You know?
And I noticed that too with the Kobe Bryant situation. I'm a basketball fan, so I spend some time, my spare time when I'm just processing and, stepping away, watching, stuff. So when I go on YouTube, obviously a lot of that story kept popping up. And I noticed, because I looked at a couple, I watched a couple things, and in my own field, there was never any registration of death. It was just like, that's not even real, and then it went into, well, then why are you watching this? And I noticed some of the comments of people, and I got a feel that, kind of like false flags used to be.
Mhm.
False flags used to, everybody would go running, and then over the last couple of years they would happen and they'd be in the news for a day, you know. And so it was almost like I saw that energy out there. I saw people just it wasn't the same energies in the past when an icon's transition, so
Mhm.
maybe that's a little bit reflective of it. We had a situation that came into our field with family,
Mhm.
and we were I brought it up, like, this is in the field, and we both, it was a 3D situation. uh, so the old pattern would be, well, this is the right thing to do, this is what we should do, and we felt sick, I mean physically sick, and we're like, okay, well, we're not going there. It doesn't matter who the hell it is or what it is, I mean, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I guess that's part of it, what's happening too. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to notice that certain things that were tolerable, or even the idea that, oh, this is expected of us because of whatever, it's not going to be so easily accepted, because what happens is, if you're going back to this inverted 3D 2D playground and you're going to participate there, you can do that. But if you're going to go there, you're going to go in as your version of you, like the highest aspect of yourself. You're not going to go play the game. It
No.
may show up. But again, the thing is, the question you ask yourself, do I, without judgment,
Mhm.
that's the important part, without judgment, do I choose to participate in this, whatever that may be,
Yeah.
or play with these people, right now? From my heart level, do I choose to participate? There's going to be times, there's going to be opportunities, and I'm going to share it because I've seen it even in my own life too. There's going to be opportunities where it's very 3D, okay, or what you call inverted 3D, 2D. However, your higher self says, no, we need to go there. And you're going, why? Well, you're going to hold a certain energy. You're going to go, but you're going to be you. You're not going to get caught up in the game. So you show up, and then when you're there, you kind of see the purpose behind it. You kind of disrupt whatever was being incubated within that environment, because you create that threat. But you're not going to change. So if somebody's going, oh man, we gotta take care of this, then you go, why? Why do we need to do that way?
Right.
Have we looked at it in a different way? You may just ask a different question, right?
Yeah.
So and that's it. Now the beautiful part about that, you may show up, for example, say there's a function that runs all day. You show up because you felt guided to show up. But if you're paying attention, you're communicating, you pay attention, and all of a sudden your higher self says, or your intuitive part says, I think we're done with this.
Yeah.
And it's only like 1 hour in. And you guys say, okay, guys, it was a blast. See you later. And you're walking, where are you going? I'm done. We got to go. And you just go, right? And you don't even have to quantify or explain or say, oh, well, or make up a story. Well, I got this to take care of. No. It says, no, we're done here. See you later.
Yeah, we can relate to that. Why? I know you said you had something you want to segue into, but I want to ask you one other thing. Obviously, there's more and more people seem to be transitioning. And there's been like an uptick in it. And is that going to continue to happen? And are the proportionately are the transitions going to increase? And why is that happening?
Okay. Yes, we've had a few actually. It's interesting. We had a couple of them come up just recently, of people that were, weren't ill or anything of that nature, weren't even in a situation where you saw, okay, well, we expect that one to go soon or whatever it is, because the old signs of not healthy or whatever may be going on there. But the thing is, the unplugging of any physicality would be an agreement that is made. Say the physicality says, okay, we're done. The human entity says, we're done. The soul says, we're done. And then we're going to unplug. If any part of it is still active and wants part of it, then that's when a soul swap happens or a drop-in comes in. But the unplugging is that, okay, we're done. We don't need this icon, this projection, this key in this playground right now. So we're going to unplug every aspect of it. The unplugging is also instrumental to the people that actually are still in the playground.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the things I've noticed: the surprise departures, or leaving the planet, checking out. The surprise checking out usually have the most impact. The other thing is the method of impact is also, or the departure has a specific impact. Because let's look at it this way: a soul is not so concerned how it leaves. A human entity is really not so concerned. The body may say, well, I don't want to have too much of a dramatic exit here, or whatever it is. But there's a difference on how somebody exits to all the remaining playmates.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if a parent has a child that has an accident and dies in a car accident, for example, that's a very different feel and a very different impact, and a very different mark is left behind versus a child that commits suicide.
Yeah.
Very different. If it's an ailment, it's usually sometimes very long, whatever that may be. For example, in one of my neighborhoods where we used to live before, some years back, a young girl, my daughter's best friend, okay, 2 doors over, came home from school. I'm tired. I'm going to go take a nap. Lies down, exits, dies, right? She was like, what, 17, 18 years old? Not even that, I don't think. But that impacted the whole family dynamics, impacted the neighborhood, impacted the school, impacted a lot of things, right? It's just, okay, the soul was done, every other part was done. We're okay to leave. How are we going to leave? Well, okay, we don't need an accident because that has a whole different feel. Suicide, nah, that's not of any interest because that's not going to be useful. However, surprise, I'm just going to go take a nap and I don't wake up. You know, that has a whole different impact. So this is the thing with departures. Now, the exiting at this point, that's kind of been known that it's going to elevate at certain points because there's going to be more unplugging. So as other, the point is the amount of the population and so forth will adjust, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is actually how it impacts all the people that choose to still play around.
Yeah.
And their energy being unplugged a certain way, a lot of times aids in a different way that we can't, normally from a human perspective, understand, right?
Right.
So, which is interesting because I have two with the ailments or the physical challenge I've had for quite a few years now. Just look at it this way. The first practitioner that worked on me that kind of indicated what was going on with my physicality at the time, this is back in January of 2016, that said, I think you may have Lyme's. Not for sure because I don't have the testing way to do it, but all the indications are there. I just found out that he passed away 3 months ago, and he was really gifted, did amazing work on people and so forth. And it's like, oh, interesting. The third one that actually had a clinic and was doing the work. We just contacted them just recently or through somebody that was contacting, because in my mind it's about time I contact them because maybe they may have something that will aid in facilitating my physicality. Find out that he's in the hospital with stage 4 cancer in his brain, and the clinic is shut down until further notice at this point. And it's going, okay, now these are both, they weren't old people, and they were helping humanity in a very big way because they were open-minded. They were not your typical doctors. They were people that were outside the box, using alternatives, using some technologies that are not that common. And here, they're leaving. So, and I just found that out in 1 week, for the two of them. It's like, oh, geez, there's a second one.
There's been a lot. There's been a lot recently.
Yeah, but the family stuff and whatever else, and friends and people, you hear more and more of it, and it depends on the areas you're going to have more exodus as they choose. It no longer needs to be here. So it's kind of
I just want to recap something just for people that have come in. So we know the inverted 3D or the distortion or the illusionary projection ceased.
Correct.
In December. January 16th, we went full blown in the projection of what we've all been waiting for, I guess, is full blown availability. And that's only 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, because today's the 30th. So
so we're talking about we're talking about quantum changes in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I think everybody that's listening here would probably, because I've been watching comments and I've been seeing posts, and it's obvious that these last 2 weeks, somebody put up a post, Michael Muir from Australia, who comes on the show, he put up a meme yesterday, and he said, this has been a long 5 months and it's only January the 20th or something like that.
Yep.
But that captures the energy of what I'm saying. Now, my question is, it's obvious to people. I'm just going to describe this. I'm not saying I'm accurate, but let's say people that are playing in 5D organic, people that are playing in 3D organic, and let's say there's some that are on a trajectory from one to the other or playing back and forth. It would make sense, especially with the 5D organic, that people are aware of what's happening. Are the people that are still playing in the organic 3D or whatever stage, are they going to be aware also?
Yes, they both are. They're aware of it. How much they acknowledge, how much they actually pay attention to notice it. Because what happens is, you see things changing, the energies feel different. But if there's enough programs that say, oh, we need to feel bad, or that this is happening, or whatever it is, it gets kind of filtered and tainted. So even though it's like, people say, I can't communicate with my higher self, right? I can't communicate with my soul. No, I can't, right? But there's no one that does not have a soul or a human entity, or even their higher aspect of all of that, that's not communicating with them. It's just because it's very subtle, and then there's so much noise over top of it, and so much distraction and distortion, that we say, okay, we don't get it, we don't see it. The other thing that's been big, and you probably can relate with this, what happens to a lot of us, and I include myself at times because of that too, is that we may ask our higher self for guidance or direction or a certain clarity, okay? And you get the answer, and it's very clear and so forth. But then the other aspects of you, being the ego mainly, well, how can you trust that? Well, what about that? Oh, how about this experience or that experience? And then what happens is it creates a confusion in your mind, and all of a sudden we start discounting what we received.
Yeah.
Because I've done this with people. I've worked with people, and they say, well, my higher self is not giving me direction. I say, okay, let's do it together. All right. And so we do it together. We're walking through it, and we ask the question, well, my higher self is just saying this. Okay, when did you hear that last time? I think I heard it a little while ago. I go, and how many times did you get that message? Oh, a few times, but everything else drowned it, or all this other commotion came about. And I said, yeah, that's all the distortion, distraction that's still in your operating system, but you did get the clarity. So it's the same thing with, we can feel and see what's happening, the opportunities that are opening up, the spectrums of light that are opening up for us. We had several big, powerful things. What was it? The 9th, the 10th, then there was the 14th, and the 11th. There was so many, portal openings, frequency blasts, and there was all that stuff to kind of get us ready. And then on the 16th, we opened up the 2020 energy, which is now another like a wave taking us, right? But at the same time, some people may be feeling very intensified experiences coming up. But that's just the adjustment of coming to the surface, and it's within us. You also see it somewhat in the collective, but that's just us integrating. And also, given that what you had said earlier, it's like, okay, I'm having this stuff coming up. Do I want to support it? Do I have preference for it? Do I respond because it's expected of me, or do I make up my own choice?
Yeah.
I hear with this people all the time. They say, "Well, I didn't have a choice. I had to do it because they expected that." And I go, "Yeah, you can believe that. That's true if you believe it to you.
Yeah.
But you always have a choice. First of all, the reason it's presenting to you is so that you have a choice. It's presenting to you to reinforce the fact of, I have a preference. Do I support this or not? Right? Do I choose to engage in this or not? Do I choose to play it this way or not? You're just presenting the opportunity for you to do that. Because like you said earlier, there is no needs, no musts or anything of that nature, because now you're running away from it. And others say, oh, yeah, okay, that's coming up. Well, okay, great. Do I want to play there? No. I mean, and don't see ourselves wrong in the sense if we get caught up in it and get okay, well, I got another taste of it. And this time I'm going to pay a little bit more attention, because the whole idea that we make mistakes and all that can be is a huge distraction for us.
Yeah.
Because then we beat ourselves up. Then we judge ourselves in different ways. And we start looking at, oh, I'm failing. I can't do it. No, you can't fail. There's no possible way. You can replicate certain experiences that you may have an issue with, or the fact that you thought you were done with it. Well, it's there. It's playing out because you give yourself another opportunity to look at it again, but you always have the freedom to say no. The other thing is, well, I want to change, but I can't. I'm stuck. I can't break out of that. We have all been there.
Yeah.
The moment you make the commitment, you say, no matter what, I'm going to transition from this experience to this experience. And I'm going to be open to this other second experience. I'm going to let it shape its own form. But the moment you made it, doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter what your ego says. It doesn't matter what any circumstance around you. You're going to say, no, no, it's not aligned with what my commitment is. My commitment is to let go of this because I'm done with it. And the thing is, the letting go or the commitment of shifting it is because you're done with it, not because you have a judgment, not because the fact that, oh, this is too painful for me, I don't want to go there again. Because if you're afraid to go somewhere to experience something, you're magnetizing it. You're bound to go right back into it and even more powerful. You got to go and say, okay, I really don't feel in alignment to do this any longer, so I'm going to work towards shifting that. But I'm okay if it does play out, and I'm okay with the fact that whatever played out before. This is the thing. What haunts us of the past is our judgment about it, our labels about it, or whatever it is. The past is beautiful, whatever it was. Do we have to carry it over? No, because we're a new person. Let the new person come through.
Yeah. And like you said, it's coming before you, so you can make a choice. So you have a choice.
Yes.
I was talking to a new friend, and and he's kind of getting his feet wet into this what we're all a part of here. And he said, I want to be 5D, but I've got to stay in 3D a little bit. And I said, well, why is that? And he would name this and name that and name this and name that, retirement, got to put in a couple more. And I said, that's a program. That's a program. That's a program. And he's like, and then you could see the light bulbs going off in his head. And then he said, but there's one I can't change. And I've got to take care of my parents.
You could take care of what?
Take care of my parents.
Oh, parents. Okay.
Got to take care of my parents. And I'm choosing that. And he said it in a way that there was no judgment. There was no, I want my cake and eat it too. It was actually, it was a really powerful energetic impression, and I could appreciate where he was coming from. It was similar to what you're talking about.
That's a beautiful example, because I can expand that just a little bit so we have a deeper understanding. And in a situation of that nature, you say, okay, I'm choosing to support my family or my parents. I choose to play a particular role. That's great. You can choose to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you also have the freedom. How am I going to play the role?
Yeah.
Do I play it the old way in 2D inverted 3D, or do I play it in organic 3D or organic 5D? And it doesn't matter, because at that point, it's like, okay, I want to be part of my mom and dad, for example, or my parents or whatever. But at the same time, I'm not going to play it the same way as before. So when I'm with them, I will spend quality time instead of looking at them and say, "Oh, poor you, I got to help you." And you're going to see them in a more open and free state, and you communicate at that level and let them gently come to you. So it's not about. This is the thing that people need. It's best we understand is that we may have certain things that we still feel that we need to participate in.
Yeah.
The freedom of choice we have, do we play it in 2D or inverted 3D, or do we play it in an organic 3D?
Yeah.
If you're playing in an organic 3D, it doesn't mean these people are not there. You're just going to see it differently. You're going to experience it differently. You're going to communicate differently, and that's all, right? The point is, the other thing that's a trap, which is a distortion, is expectation. Well, my family sees me this way, so that way I have to be this way. That is going to get so uncomfortable, so heavy, and it's going to cause you a breakdown if pushed hard enough.
Yeah.
Especially if you made a commitment within yourself to move forward in a big way. So what really occurs at that point is, it doesn't matter what they expect. I have the choice how I want to play the role, how I want to contribute, how much do I spend my time. Like, for example, I can give you an example with my dad when he was alive some years ago. I chose to visit him time to time. Okay. When I went there, I know he expected me to visit. I'm his son, right? However, I showed up there And instead of sitting there and listening to all this blah, 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 whatever it is, I would ask him question, guide the direction of the communication, always created some form of expansion. And I didn't get caught up in his drama. Wow, this happened to me. I go, yeah, well, it's okay, Dad. All right. Let's look at it this way. What did you enjoy about this or whatever? I would
Yeah.
shift him. And so his focus, and I can watch his physicality from, that crunch down, open up, because I kept talking to him about all the fantastic stuff that to look at what was going on. Oh, wow. Okay. You did this today, whatever it is. But, and then when I felt it was done, it was done. I didn't stay there because he wanted me there for 4 hours. I stayed there for whatever period of time I felt guided to be there, because I felt, okay, I'm done. Okay. I love you, Dad. See you later. Are you going already? Yes, I'm going. I'll see you again next time. Right.
Yeah.
And that's it. So the choice was made. Yeah, I choose to still go see my dad while he's still alive. My mother had already passed away from 6 years before that. So, yeah, I choose to support that in that way, but I'm not going to play it the way he expected me to play, because, my family, the rest of my family dynamic, especially siblings and so forth, would, be what Dad expected of him, of them. It's like, oh, poor this, poor that, whatever was going on. Because my dad had a lot of physical ailments going on and he was deteriorating. But we didn't focus on that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Well,
Today?
And I think the other thing too to remember, because I want to tie this into something that's just occurred in the past week, but is the people, like for instance, like my friend and his parents, uh, they're communicating actively in the other dimensions or at the higher self level or whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
In fact, we're playing down here, so there's that part of it that I think, or I'm asking, is the multidimensional communications, the non-human communications and planning and so on that occurs, is this going to become more and more? Are we going to gain more awareness and have more recall of it? I go back to this past week and I had very lucid dreams, very clear conversations just like this with my children. And there was no drama. There was just, hey, I'll see you later. And I love you. And everything's cool. And then the human wakes up over the next 2 3 days, or the human aspect is contemplating this. And I'm thinking, wow, it's like, there everything's cool. We don't even talk anymore, but everything's okay.
Mhm.
I mean, is this going to become a greater part of our awareness, our multidimensional relations and connections and conversations?
Yes, yes. And the other beautiful thing about that, which you had that lucid dream, involved them, because your energetic body or etheric body or etheric representation connected with theirs. And that actually took place in that realm.
Yeah.
That interaction, that exchange, that observation of whatever communicated that took place did take place at that level. And they have it in their consciousness that existed. Now, when they wake up and say, oh, it didn't really happen, but it still planted the seed, it still stimulated something within them, with your kids, with you, and so forth. Now, is that going to become more common? It is already is. It's becoming more common as it is. Now, eventually, what happens is we can't always fit in the human physical, what we call physical tactile experiences. So we will say 4, 5, 10 different experiences we do in the dream state sort of thing, if you want to call it, in the etherics.
Yeah.
And you only do 1 or 2 on the physical, because we just need the information of this or the experience of this, but we don't need it in the slower version where we're actually meeting physically. But then the physical, when you do meet, all of that that's been experienced is already plugged in, and it's almost like, whoa, it's not even the same connection anymore. It's a connection where you've already had a history. It's like, for example, say you met up 10 times, 2 physically and 8 times non-physically. When you meet the next time, you're bringing in those 10 meetings all together. The 8 from the etheric and the 10, you will feel it. It's almost like
Yeah, regardless of how conscious the recall is.
Correct.
And this brings up another thing too. And again, I'll use this as an example, only as an example because I can't think of any other one. But this would be again, how much more of a presence will this multidimensionality and etheric reality be a part of this physicality, this physical experience? So let me give you a couple examples. One is, in this relationship with Morgan, uh, and this has all been post January 16th for me anyway. When we lay down and put the hands together, what I'm seeing now is I would say on the cusp, if not actually an apparition of the etherics. And I'm watching more than the light bodies. It's the light bodies, but I'm actually watching the consciousness uh, uh, of each one of us and all this, for lack of a better word, all the cosmic cells of that body, of the bodies doing what we're doing,
Mhm.
basically. So that's one. And I'll tie it up with a question. The second thing that seems to be in the same frequency is when we went to this conference a few days ago, 10 days ago, or whatever, we've been traveling a lot. And so when we got there, and this would have been, by the way, the 15th, I think. So that's no coincidence there, the 16th. Uh, when we got there, though, anyway, that night we had to rush to this gathering, and there was a energetic conflict. Boom. Well, we know the game, so we just did our own thing. Long story short, we're getting to a point where there's less talking, and to rectify the situation and balance the energy, we just put our hands. We sat across from each other, put our hands together in silence for about 45 minutes, and everything was clear. Nothing was said. So where I'm getting with these examples is there going to be a more vivid five sensual type of awareness or experience when it comes to seeing our light bodies mingling with another, or or seeing the actual reality of our true energy, our consciousness, and that type of thing.
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of bringing all of yourselves into the experience, all of yourselves, because right now we've been living it kind of fragmented, but as we're going along, we're bringing all ourselves together, all aspects of ourselves, right? And at the same time, we'll also bring the multidimensional consciousness much more clearly, even the remembrance of experiences on other planets, so that you are more how can I say, what's the word? Not experienced, but you're bringing in more to the playground in the sense of awareness, so that you actually, when you're creating your playground or your day-to-day experience, you're bringing in more of that, and it'll be more conscious. It's like flashes of memory. Like for me, if I connect with any of the planets I've been on, I have a full flashing of those memories and how it felt to be there, and the
Mm.
communication that existed and so forth, what I gained while I was there. And so that when it becomes aware of it, you can now see it in this reality, in a sense. So to answer the question of the fact that are we going to feel it more in the five sensorial fifth, the five sensorial ways of it, or lack of words right now. Yes, absolutely. And we already are. And some
Yeah.
people are further ahead in the
Yeah.
sense of they've already opened enough of that. Others are like your friend may have said, well, no, I got to still,
Yeah.
hold on and still finish off this 3D. I don't want more sensorial experiences uh, than I can handle at the moment, because right now I still want to wrap this part up. And that's the gift that we've given ourselves, that, yeah, we can be an organic 3D. We can be an organic 5D. Well, everybody is to this degree, but you can still play inverted to 3D and 2D for periods of time, just as visitation. Are you going to be able to stay there for a long period of time? Absolutely not,
Mm.
unless you've made an agreement to play it for others as a role. but then that won't be forever either. So
Yeah.
in a sense, you can
So
play with
since
all that.
so essentially the memories, the expand or the memories of the other aspects of multidimensionality, planets, whatever it may be, is following the same pattern of even the walk-ins and the swaps, which is a pattern of it's to enhance the experience.
Correct.
Okay, and so yeah, so that's and then what did you just say right now? What was the last thing you just said? I can't remember 10 seconds ago, but I had
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
I wanted to get that out. I wanted to get that out so I could remember and follow up with what you were just saying.
Uh,
Um, oh, I know what it was. I just wanted to reiterate this too because you brought it up earlier, and that was that even if we want to go into, let's say, vibrational spaces that we're not matched to, and I'm talking, for only for description purposes, but a lower place or a place that we've been before, uh, it's not going to be supported. It's not going to be available. I mean,
no, it's going to be very difficult for you because, in a sense, there's two things that will happen. The either once you enter there, you're going to feel, oh, we got to leave. It's just
mhm,
not. It doesn't feel comfortable, or you get kicked out. You're not even welcome there. You walk in there, and some circumstance will unfold where you have to leave. Right.
yeah,
So in that, but if you're talking about the state of consciousness where you say you're connecting with some friends or people or family, whatever, and they're really into the inverted 3D, 2D stuff, and they're getting heavy into that, you're going to find, you may start to go into the game with them or the communication, and then it's almost like, ooh, you're going to feel it in your
yeah,
body, and you're going to feel it in your, it's like, ooh. And the other thing is, you may still force yourself to be in it, but the moment you walk away from it, or the moment that there's a breath in between,
yeah,
it's going to feel icky
yeah,
because there's a mismatch, and it's like you're stepping into something that does, it's old, it's something that doesn't really match your frequency at all. So there's several things that occur. Either you can't go,
yeah,
or the fact that you feel like, no, I'm not going there, or if you get engaged in it, you're going to get definitely a feedback that you're going to feel within you saying, no, we don't need to be there, right?
yeah. So last thing, I want to make sure now. Um, January 16th, and I said it wrong before, but the 2020 uh, energy is fully impacted and available.
Right.
Uh, there's been some very specific dates that you had prior to this, leading up to this year, that were very accurate. Is there anything else that's coming in 2020 that we should kind of just talk about for a second?
Yeah, so the 2020 energy is in. There's going to be further switches turned on, sort of thing,
Mm,
in the sense of bringing in other spectrums coming in. So there's going to be some more activity. Now, February is supposed to be colorful in a way because there's a lot of strong energies that are going to be launched along the way. No specific dates per se that I have at this point. Um, there is something around the 13th that may be more pinnacle, just the day before Valentine's Day, if that's celebrated anywhere. But the so there's something on the 10th, 13th, and so forth. But the month of February, which we're only days away from,
right.
believe it or not, I can't even believe January
Yeah,
left.
it
It's
seems like
done. It's
3
like,
years,
what the hell happened?
right?
It's
Yeah.
like I can't make. But anyways, February. It's almost like how can I say it? What's the word? It's going to be a month where it actually assists us to really integrate more truer essence. So anything that is not your truer
Yeah.
essence is going to be shaken up.
Yeah.
So it's going to feel intense. Sometimes you're going to feel like you're going crazy. Sometimes you're going to feel like I'm going to blow up. Sometimes you're going to feel like, oh, I got to step away, sort of thing. It's not there to shut you down or anything of that nature. It just really wants you to pay attention. Okay, I need to look at what my choices am I making, and how much of these choices in alignment with where I am right now and where I'm going. Because the 2020 energy is in, but it's saying, I got to help you get into alignment with that. So
Yeah.
what can we possibly do?
Yeah.
So this is kind of what is
Now,
coming through.
now, and that's good. I mean, just taking us through February is good. We don't need to be looking any further than that. I don't think. But in regard to what you're describing, you mentioned some things being flipped on, or say energies coming in the future. Are the soul swaps and walk-ins? Is there some type of is there does it coincide? Do they coincide with these portals or stargates or energies coming in these dates that you've given before?
Yeah, what happens is that as these more let's call it powerful, or these more expanded energies come in, there's going to be more souls that turn around and say, oh, okay, I'm maxed out, okay, I'm out of here, or or the physicalities or the human entities in that point, because it just says, okay, no, we don't have to be here, so we'll leave. And it won't have, so every time these bursts come in, there's going to be more to decide, and usually shortly after that, more exits or more swapping occurs or something of that nature, because these waves that come in actually set the stage for either we step into it, step up to it, or resist it, or choose to leave it. And again, the leaving part has a few options based on like what we talked about earlier during the show. That it would say, okay, yeah, I can't do this, and so forth, and we're going to leave, or I'm done. I only carried the energy up to this point. I don't need to be here anymore. Or the fact that there's going to be people that will leave to open the doorway for example, there could be a whole family dynamics, and a certain individual has been holding the energy, and everybody's still been playing there, and they say,
Right.
okay, I'm still instrumental here, and it's not, I'm not, I'm not planning to break out of my inverted 3D 2D. I'm going to unplug myself so to let them get, shaken up, and then from there they can fly all separately. I've seen this with some family dynamics where there's one individual that's keeping the family in the old pattern. Okay. And they're all afraid that if mom or dad leaves, or such and such leaves, that this is going to all fall apart, because we're not going to get together anymore. We're not going to do the old, traditions and so forth. And that soul says, okay, well, it's time to break up those old traditions. And they unplug themselves, they're gone, right?
Yeah.
And then all of those there, it starts to break up because of the fact that the link pin, or whatever you call it, the
So
hub is gone, right?
Yeah.
That represented the old version of it. So there's situations of that nature that will also take place along the way, according. So we have a phase, so besides February, then we have a phase until the end of May, and then coming into June is a whole different thing. And I want to talk about that later on, because
Oh man,
that's
come
still in the
on.
works.
What
That's
a
still in
tease.
the works.
Okay,
But
so
it gets exciting. It actually helps in a big, big way. It launches things in a very big way. So for even further movement. So I'll leave it at that at this point.
okay. All right. I want to just go through this real quick. Make sure we hit this. Now, you just did a series, as a lot of people know, some of you may not know, a trilogy
Yes.
of 3 different all-day seminars, basically. One was, 2 were, well, yeah, 2 were at the end of last year. One was in just recent. Um, and those are still available. So
Yes.
where can we find them? And do you have anything else coming up at this time?
Yes. So the 3 are available. Anyone that hasn't done it, I mean, it would be best, because what it does, it's very, it was designed, the trilogy was designed to create the platform so we understand what took place, how it affects us, how to play within it. The second part of that trilogy talked about the involvement, our personal involvement in these changes, and how we can utilize these changes. The third one was more of hands-on. The changes are here. This is how we navigate through the changes, how we actually can accelerate with it. So all three, they built up on each other. If they want to catch the one before that, that actually talked about all the things that were shaping up coming into 2020, that was just a month before that. So the last one was just last weekend. It was on the 18th. No, not the last weekend, but it was the Saturday, not this past Saturday, the Saturday before. So it was live streamed, but it's all the videos and audios are available. And there is the whole thing was over 8 hours in total. I think the recordings come out to about 7 hours of content, processes, and so forth. Okay. The reason I talk about it is because a lot of people say, well, there's all these changes. I really don't understand how to navigate it. I don't understand myself. I don't know what I'm going through. And how do I utilize the stuff that's going in? Because sometimes I feel like crazy. I don't understand the people around me or whatever it is. And what I'm feeling, this is what those workshops are done for, to really give you hands-on way of navigating it and having a deeper understanding. And whatever one that you get, you have to repeat it because it's there's so much. Like I concentrate a lot of stuff in there, and there's lots of energy in there. I've had people say, oh, every time I listen to it, I hear more stuff that I never heard before. Well, it's because you were only able to accept a certain amount, because I can give you like 10 channels worth of things, but you are only willing to or open to receive channel 1, and then maybe channel 2 later, and then maybe 3 and 4 after that. So it's very powerful in that respect.
That's a priceless quality. And do you have anything new coming up as
Yes,
well?
there is. I'm being instructed not to do one in February at the moment because it's going to be very colorful. So there will be one the beginning of March. We did already the points. We haven't done the write up yet to make it available. So we will let you know as soon as it's ready. We will post it. That's for sure. Okay. And that one there, it's the steroid version of part 3. So basically, we have the trilogy, but the fourth one is, this one's going to be a little different because we're going to do less content, but we're going to take some of the things that we wanted to expand in the last workshop. We're going to expand it, but we're going to do it together. That means I'm going to hold your hand while we're doing it. So what we're doing is that we're going to bring up certain things that we want to look at and adjust, and we're going to do it together as a group.
So it's online. Like an interactive. It's interactive.
All interactive, very interactive.
Very cool.
The information wise is going to just bring things up to the next level, but everything is interactive. So it's not like, here's the tools, which we do, here's the tools, but now let's take the tool, let's work on it. Let's do it together. And we're going to do it live.
Right on.
And it's interactive. And even if you can't join us live, the tools will be supported because as long as you follow the instructions, because we're doing it live, and do it away from it. And the thing is, for example, the tools, for example, we want to clear a program. All right. We're going to cover a bit of that. We want to clear a program or clear a pattern of ours. We're going to just choose one pattern and we're going to do it together. And that way, what happens is once you've done it and you've had the experience, then you reuse it at another time to clear another pattern. And then another pattern, another program, another story, whatever it is, so that you actually now just follow the process and I'll walk you through it.
Right on.
Okay. That's the plan for the next one. Next time we connect, we can possibly do a little process live if you want, if you're open to that.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll do one. Let's do one in the colorful month of February, or whatever that means. I don't.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I don't want to get any more information on it. I'm just going to stay with what's working.
No, it's not. I don't want people to walk away thinking, "Oh my God, the world's going to end." No, it's just going to be intense. It's going to be colorful. It's going to be, but it's all good. That's the beauty of it. It's all assisting us, and we're the ones that are volunteer to be part of it. Yeah. Someone may be clueless. It's like nothing happened,
Yeah, that'll be me. I doubt that. Anyway, well, it's always a pleasure, Franco. I'll reach out to you here in the next couple of days privately, and we'll talk a little bit Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Thank you, Kimberly. Love you. Happy birthday again. And thank you, everybody, for dropping in. We'll see Franco again soon and revisit and see if we can weasel out of him whatever he was referring to. That's going to happen after May. All right.
Okay. We'll get to play again. Thank you guys.
All right. Take care, Franco.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.